Ringside Seats. It's New Comic Book Day Night Live. What's up, everyone? I'm Eli, and I'm joined by two amazing hosts. We've got Rick Lopez, and we've got Manny Gomez. And we are joined by special guests, Jonathan Thompson and Aaron Z. Lee. And we've got more guests coming up as the show continues. We've got a collector like you, musical guest, no one, and your host, Eli Schwab. Remember Don Pardo? That's what I'm trying to do here. All right, welcome everyone to New Comic Book Day Night Live, our new show here in Ringside Seats. It's going to be happening once a month live from the group here. And I'm just like cruising around the group trying to make sure it is going live, which I believe it is. And we're going to be talking new comic books. We're going to be talking to creators. We're going to be talking to pros. We're going to be talking to indie creators and collectors like you. So if you want to be featured on the show, hit me up, hit Rick up, hit Manny up, and we're going to do it up. All right. So let's start off where we start off every show with our plugs and our new books. So let's go over to you, Manny. What you got this week, this month?
Well, as always, I write a frequent column for Monkeys Fighting Robots called Self-Published Spotlight. I just dropped a new interview today with Jonathan, who's one of our guests tonight, talking all about the book he just launched a Kickstarter for, Night of the Comet. It's a new edition of this book. It's going to be an oversized edition, which you guys have to get. This is a fantastic book. Working on a few other projects that I guess I don't want to talk about until I get the people involved, on board and talking about them. But yeah, you can find me on Monkeys Fighting Robots. I'm usually writing 2 or 3 articles a month on there, and I write the occasional review for the Comics Beat as well, usually covering some of the indie books that are released from week to week. And if you want to know what I bought this week at the shop, wasn't a huge week for me, but I got the new issue of The Incredible Hulk, which is by Donny Cates, who's actually only doing plots now. Ryan Otley is writing and drawing the book and has been for the past couple of issues. What's the Furthest Place from Here, which is a book by Tyler Boss and Matthew Rosenberg. It's a very, very unique post-apocalyptic story that is very influenced by music. Eli, I think you would dig this. The title itself is a reference to a song by the band Jawbreaker. And the special editions of each book come with a 7-inch record that has an indie band doing a brand new song that usually has a thematic connection to the issue. I also picked up, it's harder to get those. You have to wait a while. They don't drop as often as the monthly regular one does, but Image does put them out. They're usually delayed because pressing records right now is hard, because there's shortages with that kind of stuff. I also picked up the new issue of the relaunch of Wildcats, which Matthew Rosenberg is also writing, and it's a lot of fun. It's a big throwback to the heyday of Wildstorm and when Wildcats was great, and it pulls from all era of Wildcats. So you got your Jim Lee era, your era when Joe Kelly was doing it. So Matt's bringing in aspects from Wildcats through all of its history and making it work. So it's great. Picked up the Ninja Turtles. That's an evergreen title for me. I've been picking it up for years, and I'm gonna continue. Right now, it's in the midst of the Armageddon War, which is a big crossover. So people who were saying that the title was kind of lagging and not going anywhere, it's not doing that now. There's a lot of action and a lot of stuff going on issue to issue. So it's a great time to be reading Turtles. And I picked up Gunslinger Spawn, which I am a little behind on because there's so many Spawn books, it's hard to keep up. But I still pick them up every month, and when I have the time, I sit down and read them. And Gunslinger Spawn is probably the most 90s feeling of all the Spawn books. So if you dug Spawn in the 90s, that's probably the one you want to be reading. Although Spawn overall has been a lot of fun lately. So yeah, that's what I got going on.
Hell yeah, dude. Thank you so much for that. There is a lot of good Turtles books coming out. Wait till you hear.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Rick, over to you, buddy. What's going on?
What's up, guys? Rick Lopez. You can follow me on Instagram at Doom Days, or you could find me at Next Panel Press. I do Cosmic Cat. He's a spacefaring feline, smokes joints. He fights aliens, and he learns about his past, present, and future in the meantime. I do that with about 15 other individuals, and you could go on there. You could go through our story highlights. You can read all through our series. I just put out the 50-second strip this past Sunday, so we've just made it through our second year, actually. So you can check out all my books on there, or all my Cosmic Cat strips on there, as well as dozens of others. And then I'm still working on, I still have my series, The Power. It's a 4-issue series about a boy creating a comic, only to discover a realm beyond space and time within his own mind. So it's that whole kind of ethereal plane we go to while working on our stuff. It's the cover for the 3rd issue. I'm about halfway done coloring this one, then I'm gonna send it off to the printer, and then I'll have that up in my shop. Honestly, I get so behind with books lately, but I actually did read something new-ish and new to me, and I got Barry Tan's book, and I was pretty stoked on that. His art's fucking incredible, dude. Like he's so versatile, man. He can, like, I was like, damn, Barry. I was like, he does those pages like this page, and then compared to Ghost Agents, it's like, dude, you're just so fucking good. That's just all there is to it. But yeah, I was really stoked on that. And yeah, follow Barry Tan because he's fucking amazing.
Hell yes. And you heard it here, folks. Stay tuned on Monday for a very special announcement from Barry Tan and Cosmic Lion Productions. Speaking of which, Cosmic Lion Productions got a ton of new books. As always, we got Space Knights, Tales from Space Knights. We've got the Ghost Agents Treasury, which is just a little out of reach. We've got Weird Myths, a wordless action comic from a creator out in Turkey. So we send a lot of love over to Turkey and all those affected by the earthquake over there, which was
yeah.
Wizard. I have like one copy of Wizard 1. If someone's looking to get one, you can hit me up. I've got a few of those left. And I got Wizard 2, still got those kicking. And as far as new books go, I'll tell you what, the hanging with or listening to Ed and Jim talk to Kev and Pete, as we like to call them, really rejuvenated me. So I got this and I've been reading it. Turtles Ultimate Collection Volume 6. It's like all the short stories. And of course, like we got the last run in the Lost Years, which has just started last week or 2 weeks ago. It's another killer book in kind of filling in the Last Ronin stuff. I didn't love Last Ronin, if I'm honest, but And then we got a new Gru in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Gods Against Gru. Yes, dude. I missed issue 1. I had to have my store order it for me. And so I got issue 1. Issue 2 just came out. And so we're kicking on some Gru right now. I'm always congruous with my reading habits with that. And just some old books that I'm always going to be reading is these. So
that's pretty cool.
2001.
Yeah. I did also pick up the second volume of Department of Truth, which I've started reading.
Oh, nice.
Which is freaking awesome. Yeah.
And another book that I've got laying right here, Night of the Comet. And this is what I call a segue into our first guest. Jonathan, what's up, dude? How you doing?
I wish I had a copy of that book, but I have no more left.
That's that
original run. Yeah, we printed just enough. I don't have any comics because I didn't make it to the comic shop for the past 3 weeks, but I have comic-ish related. I'm reading Masters of Doom about the making of Doom. That is a fun-ass book.
The Doom. Wow.
The Doom.
Video game.
Doom. Yes.
Oh, sweet.
So it's, I think, similar audience. I think you would all enjoy it if you picked it up.
Very nice.
I got to read that. I love Doom.
Dude, it's an awesome book. Those guys were crazy. It's like a cool Steve Jobs story without a different kind of assholes.
And with more demons,
Exactly. And then I have Night of the Comet. We got it running as a Kickstarter now for an oversized version. The version that everybody's showing off, it came out, I would say, smaller than we originally planned when we printed it. And then we always wanted to do something even bigger because the artist Attila Schwantz is a European artist. So he's used to having those big European sized volumes. So that's what we're funding now.
Nice.
How big does he work on his original art?
He works pretty big. I mean, let me see if I can find. I had photos, but they're pretty big pieces, like bigger than what a European size would even look like.
Yeah, I figured it would have to be because there's so much like going on in the pages that like.
Yeah, I wish I had a copy to show off, but yeah, show it off.
I mean, just let me look at some of my favorite. Like, look at this one here. I don't know if you can sort of see it, but look.
He does all sorts of different multimedia. Like obviously that one's more Photoshop that he's working in there. But if you look at the next page, you know,
Yeah,
every page is a different type of art style that he's doing. Like if you go in those flashback pages, those are all colored pencil.
yeah, I was gonna say it looks like ballpoint pencil. This is one of my favorites.
Oh, dude, my favorite page is the page that we use for the header of the Kickstarter later on in the book, and that's all done in Bic pen.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, just like blue and red pen.
Yeah, like this here looks like colored pencils, probably.
Yeah, that's colored pencil.
Yeah,
He's insane.
it's great, man. And it's like I had asked you this in the interview we did earlier this week that's on Monkeys Fighting Robots. But like, I mean, do you want to talk about like what it was like writing for him, knowing that like he does this kind of art? Like,
it was fun because with each artist I've worked with, I've tried to find a different way to work with them. And it's also been a learning process for me to figure out how to script for comics. You know, I think in the first book I did with George Gavato, when we did Tales from the Dead Astronaut, I tried to, at the beginning, I was like, oh, the panels should be here, here, and here. And then I realized, no, just get the emotion right and let him do his thing. Mainly because he was coming up with pages that were not in the script. So I was just like, okay, he's going to do whatever he wants. So let's just have fun with it. And then when it came to Attila, his work was so wild that I figured I could probably take a real step back and minimize this even more and just, you know, give him maybe 4 panel descriptions and then see how he interprets it into like something without panel boundaries in any way. You know, we're working on a new project that I'm just scripting it like prose and breaking it down by the page and letting him do whatever the hell he wants.
yeah, that must be, like you said, really freeing for you as a writer, because I mean, like it almost allows like the idea to come out real pure, you know?
It's freed me up overall as a writer. Like even I've been sharing pages with that I'm doing with the artist Dr. Canston, and you know, those I'm getting looser and looser with things. I'm just like breaking it down to emotion, what each panel emotion needs to be, and then letting him, you know, I try to let the artist have as much fun as possible because I want them to keep working with me.
So would you say that like you change as a writer each time you work with a different artist? Like
pretty much.
Fair to say?
I feel myself even adapting to how they are. Like when I did the book with Manly, airplane mechanics.
Yeah.
Like
which I mean,
I know
right here, folks.
That one I have a couple copies left of, so you can get that as an add-on in the Kickstarter. But that one, like, because he's such a funny dude, I felt myself even freer to like be more like lean into my own sense of humor and lean into his weird sense of humor. And then just, I think we have a funny ass book that hopefully hits you when you get to the end.
I mean, I also like that you've done books like different sizes. You know, you have like Burn Residue, which was like, you know, sort of like, you know, more like a regular comic book size, you know, like, you know, you had Airplane Mechanics, which is, you know, like digest size.
Yep.
You had Night of the Comet, which was like an off size, and now you're doing like the bigger size. Like, does the size come into play when you're thinking about the story, or is that like?
No,
like
it comes into play because did you ever get the original Tales from the Dead Astronaut?
I did, yeah. I just forgot to pull it out of my boxes, but yeah, that was also.
I don't have anything.
Well.
Yeah, that was like a digest size too, and I specifically wanted it to feel like that. And then I don't know if
you're thinking tactile when you're thinking.
I'm always trying to think like the actual reading experience. So I like that size. I don't always love the traditional comic book size, but it's like each project fits a certain kind of feel. Like my ideal form for Game of Doubles is that manga size, that same size as Airplane Mechanics, just because it feels so much fun to flip through than when it was a standard comic book.
Game of Doubles is like another one I love, and what I really liked about that one is that it's not a story you traditionally see in comics. You know what I mean? Because it's like a locked room murder mystery almost. You know, and like if you describe that to someone, they're like, well, that's not a very visual story.
It was such a hard sell to begin with.
Ryan Tavares is able to make it like he's fucking great, man. He crushed it. I love what he does with Nomads. Like what he did here is amazing, and it's like I think I wrote it in my review. It's like he's drawing twins, but he's such a good artist that like there's enough of a difference in them that you look closely, you can tell them apart. You know, like especially if you read the book a few times like I did, you're like, fuck, I can see the difference between these two. The facial expressions, and
I knew I wanted him for that project, and it was funny because it was based off of his Nomads work, and you kind of think like, why? He's like, why are you asking me to do tennis /
Nomads is like a barbarian shit. You know
exactly.
I mean? Like,
but if you look at those tennis pages, you can see why. Because
man,
all that action and movement is there. I know when I was originally scripting it, I thought about having like commentary for the tennis match, but then when he started putting together the thumbnails, which were really detailed, I was just like, just let it all play.
Yeah, man, that was such a great project because, like, I mean, it almost worked like a tennis match. You know, you have like the dual stories. You know what I mean? Like the way they bounce off each other. Like it got, at least to me, it got very meta when I was reading it. Like I really enjoyed it.
I'm hoping to do more with that one because I feel like there's a centerpiece story that exists after for each brother that could fit right in there. So
and it feels like there's a lot like the way you wrote the brothers, like there's a lot in there that you could still, I think, expand on and tell. You know what I mean? Like there's such distinct personalities, and like the brief moment that we catch them in, like you can still see, like, I mean, like any brothers, they're gonna have so much history together, but them specifically being like the relationship they had, I think you have a lot of room to explore them, you know? And
I love that one. And especially it's like experimenting with size is, you know, I'm gonna have to send you the manga sized one because I just like that.
Oh, dude, I would love that. And the fact that you also just fucking included a trading card, bro.
Of course.
Yeah. That just is amazing. You know, it's like it's a sports book, so yeah, you got your sports trading card. Yeah, it's really good, man.
Yeah, well, I try to have fun.
Oh yeah, dude. That was good job, Manny. You know your shit.
He does.
He's a good interviewer, man.
He really is. That's why I say he's always going to be my first one. He's always going to be the first.
I'm gonna hold you to it too, man. Because like, I mean, if in my opinion, like, I mean, you're this close to. I mean, everyone should be reading your books, man. So like, I think it's just a matter of getting them in the right hands and someone that can be like, yeah, you know, let's go.
That's what we're hoping for. Like I was telling you,
just keep doing it, man, because it's gonna be great. It's great, great stuff.
We're churning away. Like me and Attila have a project that we're working on right now. I should sneak some pages to you, but for that one, I told them to do it all in colored pencil. I was just like, that's what I want to go with for this one, and hopefully we'll send that one out soon. Is my dog barking too loud? Can you guys hear that?
I didn't even hear it.
Yeah.
No. Oh,
one thing I did want to ask you is, like, I mean, I feel like almost every single Kickstarter campaign of yours that I've supported has been successful. So like what's the secret there, man? Because I mean,
I hope it doesn't stop now.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know. Just willing it into existence.
I mean, I'm a believer in that too. So I think that's probably.
I think we get lucky sometimes because every once in a while, like a higher profile creator will back it because they'll see something in it. And then when people see that, I think we definitely get some off of that. We've never been lucky enough to fund day one. So it's always been like 30 days of torture, but somehow it all comes together in the end.
And like, how do you determine like the goals for each book or like the budget? I mean, because I'm just curious. I've never been on that end of the Kickstarter, you know,
I
and like,
just
like,
try to
I might
make
be wanting to maybe try one day. So like,
yeah, I just try to make sure I don't lose too much money. Like I try to make sure that there's enough for the artist to get paid to fund the printing. And then sometimes I undersell how much the shipping is going to cost me in the end, but we get there.
Yeah, I
don't
find
get
that like it's like you're either undershooting or you're
Mhm.
overshooting, like when it comes to that. Like
Yeah.
because you don't want to ask for too much because then you think
Yeah.
you might not get funded. And then if you ask for too little, it's like people are like, what are they even gonna do with that amount of money? They don't need my help or something like that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's such a fine line you walk with these Kickstarters, man.
It's also hard to like figure out what to price them too. Because I think routinely I underprice based on what most people do. So then
Mhm.
like you know, game of doubles, it was like too cheap. It was like $5 or like $2 to get some versions. And I was like, oh my God, what did I do to myself? The backer number is rising, but it's only like $10 more.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. And it really is, you're like biting your nails all month, you know. It's like, is this
And
gonna happen?
it sucks shipping to Europe and Canada because you have to charge so
Terrible.
much,
Yes,
which
so tough.
sucks because you feel like you're ripping people off, even though it's still costing you more than what you're charging them for that.
Yeah. And speaking with other creators, like, you know, sometimes you price it a little bit higher than the actual cost per book,
Yeah.
but then you mostly lose that on shipping,
Mhm.
you know, because
Yep.
like you don't know how much it's going to weigh before you get it. And then it's like there's a whole rigmarole, if you
Yep.
will.
It's not easy.
No, it's not easy being cheesy. Gosh. All right, so
Be
it is
nicer if it was.
5:30. That means we are halfway through our first hour, and that brings us to our first segment, which is Collector's Corner, New Comic Book Day, Night Live Collector's Corner. We have our featured collector of the day, who is literally in a corner of his collection. And so we've got Shaun McNally. What up, Shaun?
Hi, I'm painfully camera shy, so please be patient with me throughout this. That's why I read comics.
Well, you seem jovial and happy, and you know we've seen you on these things lots of times. You and I have met IRL a few times, and you have an amazing collection. So what we're looking to really do in these parts of the show here is featuring a collector who, you know, may not be a writer, may not be an artist, but we all feel that the collector is an equal part of this whole freaking thing. You know, it's like the collector is what keeps this entire world going, you know? So it's a whole thing. And so we wanted to ask you here, and we wanted to feature something from your collection. So what do you want to show us, dude? What do you got?
There's been a lot of Stan Lee talk today.
Oh, that's right. Shout out Tom Scioli.
Signed Stan Lee Marvel No Prize.
Wow.
I got it at Stan Lee Kamikaze here in LA a couple years ago.
Nice. Okay. And you got it there with one of the popular figures there.
Yeah, so you see he's got the logo for the con. It's a LA Comic-Con now, but it used to be
That's
Stan
right,
Lee Kamikaze. It was like year 2 of the con.
So how did you get that no prize? Did you find something, or?
I Googled it. I just Googled it. I printed it out on an envelope and I brought it
Shaun.
with, right? And my buddy brought a Venom statuette, like a bust, for Stan to sign. I was like, why? He had nothing to do with that. Dude, I just Googled this shit. You know, it was great. I was going to just put that, because it started with, I just wanted a no prize. Like I got a bulletin board of stuff. I was going to put a no prize up there. And then I was like, let's get it signed. And, you know, Stan, he's head down. He was just doing work. He was just signing. And he did catch the no prize, though. And he's like, Excelsior. And then went right back to it. Like it was a moment of lucidity. And then he clocked back in, you know.
A no prize literally was just an empty envelope back in the day, right? Like
yeah, that was it. You just got an empty envelope and maybe a letter. You know?
How many questions did he answer with Excelsior? Do you believe? Is that just like every thing he's asked? Excelsior.
Well, you think about it at work, right? Like I have phone calls, you know, I send the same email like to the same clients, you know, true, 50 times a day. That's Stan. Stan's doing the same bits, you know, please and thank
all
you.
Day.
please see below, like all that shit. It's the same thing as just Excelsior for him. He had more fun.
Probably when he's asked what his favorite ship captained by Sulu is, he'd say Excelsior.
Yeah, right.
Joke for you Star Trek fan. All right.
I wonder how many people got that one, Eli.
I hope a lot.
This
I
bitch
hope so,
too.
What is that?
What is that?
I got this for my birthday years ago. So it's Avengers Mansion, right?
Yeah.
Cap, Tony. I mean, it's so amazing. The Avengers are just hanging out, just chilling.
Giant Man.
Spidey
Spider-Man.
swinging by. The best is the top.
Now, is this like a play set from the 80s or?
No.
I feel like you're about to
you
get
got
to it.
Thor, you got Wonder Man chilling in the pool, Scarlet Witch,
Oh, nice.
Quicksilver.
That's very cool.
Then
It's like a Wes Anderson drawing.
yeah. So then it's
His brother.
books. So it's like
Holy shit.
Spider-Man, Avengers, Captain America, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, Fantastic Four, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, X-Men, not brand Eck, and then more shit. So, and it's all collected.
Wow,
This is the
dude.
inside of the mansion. And then, and it came with a poster as well, signed by Stan Lee. It's an Alex Ross poster. And then I cracked these open like at the start of COVID to start reading them. So, it's like the first 25 issues of each series.
And so it was to celebrate Marvel's like 75th anniversary.
Yeah, correct.
Oh my God, that's sick, Shaun. I have a
just
feeling
tell you-
that. Oh my God. Yeah, here we go.
But, so, I stuff like that. But, that's kind of boring now. I'm having more fun with you guys and the stuff you're putting out. So this is like my favorite box right now. I got my kayfabe box, right? Kayfabe. Then I got my Outlaw comics, right? And then,
I love that you make tabs for everything.
right? And then I got my Cosmic Lion,
Hell yeah, man.
right?
Hell yeah.
Where do I keep not brand Eck? I got your Eck book around. That might be here. Yeah, right here. Weapon Eck. Like, I'm loving these joints, man. All these things you guys are putting out, like with your Kickstarters. I will tell you this about Kickstarters as a fan. Like, my thing is, I have a, like $100 a month I can spend on comics. I can do whatever I want with, right? And for me, it's always like first of the month. So first of the month, if it's like, I wake up 6 a.m. and I've got stuff already queued up on my comics shop list or like your Kickstarters. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. It just turned the first of the month. Now I can buy into that Kickstarter, or buy into 3 of those Kickstarters. Or you guys like announce it at the end of the month or middle of the month. I'm like, fuck, and like I already blew my money in the first of the month.
Oh, gotcha.
But so it's always fun to kind of juggle those things. And then like,
Yeah,
okay, this
I feel
month
you.
I've still got to get to Tree versus Fox and all of Jerome's stuff. I'll be honest, like he keeps getting pushed down my list because of these ghost agents Kickstarters. It was just boom, 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 and I was like, fuck. Other people got pushed down because I was keeping up, and then I lost track. This last one where is he?
I feel like now the collector's corner is like the there it is.
There it is.
Up with Destroy.
I forgot
Nice.
I bought that one. I was like, did I buy that or not? I can't remember.
All right, so this
Too
is
many
actually like
Kickstarters right in a row.
this is a good way to kind of get some crowdsourced information about best times for Kickstarters,
Right?
what the audience is looking for. This is great, dude. Thank you so much, Shaun. I mean, that wall behind you is glorious.
Yeah, you want to look at it? Hold on.
Yes, please.
And that's like fun for me. It's like pulling out records. I don't know how to spin it around. Oh, here we go. So let's see.
Let's spotlight you again.
Oh, get my finger out of there.
Oh,
How
there
great
you
is
go.
Cobra.
Do you
Yeah.
guys
Oh,
have
Cobra.
Bro.
the subscription so you get them signed by Fifi?
Yeah.
Most definitely.
I love getting these signed every month. They're so good. Kirby's headstone. I love Perez. Got other shit.
Is that a Tony Hawk skateboard?
Yes, it is.
Fuck yeah, dude.
That's my skateboard from when I was a kid.
That's
Nice,
awesome.
dude.
Have you guys ever seen this? Kidnapping Kevin Smith. I found it in
No.
the dollar bin.
What?
Is that a Mike Allred cover?
Yeah. I got to get him to sign it. I love this cover of Gutter Hunter. Like, that's what I want my room to look like. It's amazing. These guys.
Got
Hey,
some Chris
here's
Anderson
my boy
there.
right here.
There you go,
Oh,
Rick.
hell yeah, dude. Tony McMillan there.
Much
Hey,
love, Sean.
Favors.
Dude, that Fantastic Four you have, is that the holograph? That is one of my favorite. Is that Paul Ryan, the art, when Paul Ryan was drawing Fantastic Four?
I think it's Tom Grommet or I'm not sure.
That
I
era of
love
Fantastic
these-
Four was great.
Yeah. I love these cover gimmicks. They crack me up.
Yeah, they're
Me
fun.
too, man.
Fucking Wizard is where I got hooked into you guys. That was my main line for you. I love you guys.
Yes.
Hey, Eli, is this going to be for sale at Collector's Paradise? This one?
Space Knights?
Yeah.
I don't know. You don't have one yet?
No, you didn't have it at LA Comic Con. I went to Collector's Paradise to get it, but I got Steel Streets instead because they were fully stocked on Steel Streets.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I did get that at the con. I got a sign, but yeah, I still got to hook this one up. But
yeah,
if
we
you're
have
not
it on
there-
the store. You can get it off Cosmic Lion Productions.
Okay, I'll do that. I like going to Collector's Paradise and going to your shelf and shopping all the stuff on that shelf.
It is nice. They'll take a chunk though, so
Do that? Well, you know, it's a brick and mortar. Everyone's got to make money.
that's true. You're absolutely right, and I love those guys.
But yeah,
All right,
for
Sean,
having
thank
me.
you
This
so
is fun. I
much.
could do
Yes,
this all day.
absolutely.
Dude,
I know
that's
you
sick,
could.
bro. You have some of the sickest stuff I've seen.
Yeah, that was awesome, dude.
Some
Yes.
cool shit.
I love having the collectors portion of this show. It's very fun. Everyone, like, I feel like we all could do this, you know, like be
Yeah.
it creator, be it writer, artist, whatever, because everyone's got like, and will get so passionate about their collection, you know.
What we were saying before we started like going live is like we all started as collect. I mean, that's why we're even doing this, is because we fucking love comics. You know what I mean? It all starts at that level.
I have to show my one piece of collection.
Jonathan, do it.
So when I was a kid,
It gets crazy once one part of the
I
collection.
know.
is
At
shown.
least this is easily accessible.
It's reminding me of show and tell in school, dude. I used to love that shit. You know?
Yes, we did a whole podcast of that at one time. It was nice.
When I
Go
was a
for it.
kid on Long Island, the golf course that my dad would go to, there was an old Superman comic artist that would like just hang out at the bar and drink all day and play golf. So I have a Superman drawing by Al Pastino.
Oh wow!
And I was given to it as a kid, so of course there's like a soda stain on it. It's
Oh no.
beats of hell, but yep, it's pretty cool. It's
That's
sat just
amazing.
in its paper until my wife said this thing needs to be framed. So it's on my mantle. But you know, that's my big one that I'm chasing is Superman. So constant there.
All right. Well, I do want to send a quick shout out to David who showed up. David Pepose, our next guest.
Pepose,
and
I think is what he said.
Pepose. All right.
Yeah,
Sorry about
hi.
that, sir. I meant to ask. How's it going, man?
That's going great. How are you?
Very good. Welcome. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, you came in right during the collector's corner.
Yeah, you
of
came
our
in at a good
collector. It was
time.
in the corner. Yeah, you got to see all the bomb ass stuff.
Yeah, it was dope.
Word. All right. So let's see. Kev Delgado also popped in. Literally, he just popped in there. Now, Kev, you say you got a question for Jonathan before we segue
Oh,
into
no.
the David section. You're muted, brah.
I was saying, I think it's a better question to ask in private, but I saw some tweets you had been putting out there, maybe like last month in regards
Uh-oh.
to some of your books,
Oh no.
and kind of going through a similar situation. So maybe it's something we don't do in a public forum, but it kind of relates to that. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Oh my
I think I know what he's
God.
talking about too.
I don't think
I mean,
a
I'm not
story
afraid to
ever ends well when it starts with.
Yeah, when it starts
some
like that, you
tweets
leave
went
everybody
out.
in suspense.
Good Lord. All right. Okay.
I don't know. It's
Kev,
funny.
what you-
After I made those tweets, a couple more people messaged me asking me questions.
Yeah, I bet.
Hmm.
So
Okay. So we're just
yeah,
leaving it
maybe
mysterious
if you don't
like
mind,
that?
I could hit you up later or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Now you just leave everybody questioning.
Yes, this is now I'm on the
The
edge of my
suspense.
seat. Okay. All right.
Always,
All right, so
always
David,
leave,
let's
leave
say
them
hi
wanting
to
more.
man.
Man.
Yeah, well, you did it. This is what a good writer does.
Yeah.
David, I'd like to welcome you here. David is a writer of many amazing books. We were talking about Savage Avengers earlier. We got Avengers. What was the one you were talking about, Manny? You were psyched to talk about. Let's see.
Spencer and Locke.
Yeah, Spencer and Locke, Going to the Chapel, Grand Theft
Yeah.
Astro, the OZ, Scout's Honor. I'm an Eagle Scout, by the way. Not that anyone believes me. You are too,
Oh, so-
Shaun. We talked about this, didn't we?
I believe you.
So if we ever need knots tied, we know who to ask, right?
Yeah, you better not ask me about those knots, though, because I don't know if I remember them. David, what's up, man?
Not much. Just been hunkering down on work the last few days, and excited to kind of come up for air and get to hang out with you guys.
Sweet. Awesome. All right, so we're going to start off with Manny because he is like a very good interviewer at this point. He's like so juiced up.
He's very good.
Thank you, man.
And
You guys-
Jonathan
you guys-
said you guys have met at a con or something like that. So that's very cool. We got some synergy going on.
I talked really bad about you, David.
Oh,
You did.
okay, that's fair.
All right, take it away, Manny.
I mean, David, if you just want to tell us a little bit about how you got your start in comics. I mean, I know I hit you up about interviewing you before, but we never got heard back from Marvel PR. So we can touch some of the things I wanted to ask you about then here.
Sure.
But that was one of them. I mean, in doing research when I was going to interview, I know that you majored in writing and in theater arts. So just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into comics and I guess your comic book origin.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a third generation comics fan. My mother was a comics reader. My grandfather was a comics reader. And so I've been pretty well steeped in these since the early 90s. Comics were always the dream job, always kind of the astronaut job. And I kind of zigzagged my way into the industry. I interned at DC Comics right out of college, working on Batman RIP and Final Crisis. It was also during the recession, so there were no jobs, so to speak. But I wound up landing at a role at Newsarama. I started as a reviewer and as a blogger, and wound up becoming the reviews editor for a long time. I think, and I'm sure you guys can relate that I think it kind of comes in waves of the books you like versus maybe the books that you don't connect with. And I was kind of hitting a little bit of a low point with the books that I was reading. I just wasn't connecting with a lot of things. And so I kind of had to come to a crossroads where I said, either you need to kind of change your relationship with comics or you need to walk away. And for me, it was maybe if you're not finding books that you would enjoy reading, maybe you should make some of those books instead. And so, the first full script that I put together was a book called Spencer and Locke. It was what if Calvin and Hobbes grew up in Sin City? Is kind of a hard-boiled detective story dealing with childhood trauma and mental illness. And the process of writing that first issue was really fun. Finding an artist, George Santiago Jr. He was terrific to work with, and so I figured I'd kind of shop it around on a lark. And we were lucky enough that an editor kind of pulled us out of the slush pile immediately and asked us, how soon can you get this book together? And that sort of was the beginning of my career. And I've been fortunate that people seem to really like that book. People seem to really respond to it, and so I've been making comics ever since.
That was with Action Lab, right? Is that who put?
Yeah. Yes. That was through them.
And Did you do any other projects with them? Going to the chapel was also with Action Lab, right?
Yeah, we did Go into the Chapel. We did a sequel to Spencer and Locke. We're hoping to do a third one of these days.
I wanted to ask, yeah.
Whenever we get the rights back. Yeah, that was my start.
Dude, I get it too, because it's a name and then a philosopher the same way.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's
We,
great,
we picked two philosophers, and yeah, a lot of people from high school debate teams were very happy with the names we picked. So yeah, I think it worked out really nicely, and that book, it's still my baby. It really, I couldn't have imagined a better first book to start my career with than Spencer and Locke, and I'm very proud of the book, and I'm proud of how far everyone on the creative team has come since that first volume came out. And yeah, it's weird to think that we're approaching the 5-year anniversary of that book coming out.
That long, wow.
It's funny, you say it feels that long. For me, it feels like 5 years. That feels like the blink of an eye.
Yeah, because I remember when I first started writing for Monkeys Fighting Robots, Anthony, who was the editor-in-chief, he loved that book, and he was the one that introduced me to it.
I like
yeah,
him.
he is, man. Yeah, talk to him often.
So yeah, I don't know. It feels like we've all come a really long way just in those 5 years, and I'm excited to kind of see where the next 5, 10, 15, 20 will take us.
I have a quick side question. Did you see that Bill Watterson announced that he's got a new book coming out like at the end of the year or something?
I saw, it's one of those things. I honestly don't really know what to make of it, or what to think of it. I think if there's anybody who would be considered a modern master, it'd be him.
Yes.
And so I'm very curious to kind of see what he's up to in a book that seems so wildly different from the main work that he's normally associated with. So yeah, I think if anybody has earned the right to kind of go off and do their own thing, even if it's so kind of out of left field for what you know him as, it's Bill Watterson. So I'm thrilled for him. I'm excited to check this out. He's a trailblazer, and I think he's still got plenty of trails left to blaze. So excited to check that out.
Yeah, I'm so psyched. I'm glad he's like out of retirement or whatever they said.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's see. We got a question here from Kev. What's up, Kev? What you thinking?
Sorry. Yeah, I was wondering, when you were getting like an assignment, or you're putting together a story and you're looking for like an artist to collaborate with, how much say do you have in the matter, and what is something you look for in said artists?
That's a good question. I mean, it does depend. It depends on whether I'm doing creator-owned work versus licensed work. Creator-owned work, I typically have a little bit more say, because primarily many of my projects that have been creator-owned, I'm usually bringing the whole team with me. That's been the case for Spencer and Locke. That's been the case for Going to the Chapel, the OZ. I assembled that team, so that I have a lot of control over. Things like Scout's Honor, and another original series that I've got coming out later in the year. That's more of a conversation. You say, okay, like here's some names of some people that I think might kind of fit the aesthetic, and you talk with your editors, you kind of get a sense of like, are they available? Are they will they work within your budget? Do your editors feel the same way? And so that can be, that's a little bit more of a negotiation. But I've been really lucky as far as that's concerned. As far as my licensed work, I think that the editors often have kind of an idea of who they want in a book at any given time. And it's not to say that I haven't had an ability to have some degree of say. My story for Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood, for example, like I had specifically requested Leo Romero. I had given my editor, Tom Brevoort, a list of names of artists that I really liked, and Leo was literally the number one on the list. So it was cool that Tom was able to bring him on board. but I think that is sort of it is similar to kind of the game of traffic cop that you're playing with, just what's up with all the what characters are available. Oftentimes that is a game of 20 questions with your editors, saying, for example, when I was working on Savage Avengers, I had requested Dakin, Dark Wolverine, on the team, and was told, hey, actually Dakin's working over in Marauders. Now there's no way I could have known that without asking. And it's similar, that is similar as far as artists are concerned as well. Sometimes an editor kind of has an artist already in mind. Sometimes they don't, and you can kind of throw out a few names. There's a project of mine that actually, a short story that I believe is getting announced tomorrow, where like I was talking with my editors on that, and like I threw out a couple of names, and one of those names, they're like, actually we had asked that artist specifically if they could do this particular story, and they weren't available for it. So you can throw some names out. It really just, it kind of depends on who's available. Are they interested? Do they work, in the budget? Do they work in the window of time? Oftentimes with the licensed work, the runway is much shorter to get everything together. But I do think our editors are often open to hearing names if you have them, especially if they're people you have relationships with. I think otherwise, though, sometimes they've made promises to other people. Sometimes they've approached other people before they've approached you. I like, for example, my Hulk annual is coming out in May. I believe that Caio Eduardo, the artist on board for the book, I'm pretty sure that my editor Wilmos approached him first. So it's kind of one of those things that sometimes you're the chicken and sometimes you're the egg. So
right.
that's kind of how it is. So you really have to be kind of fluid and just adapt, because oftentimes, at least at my level, there you could ask for whoever you consider a really A-list name, but they might not be available, they might not be interested. And so I think a great example of that is Carlos Magno, who I worked with on Savage Avengers. Lovely guy, super talented, and frighteningly fast. Carlos wasn't really on my radar when we started this project. And I think it speaks to my editor, Tom Brevoort, having really good taste and kind of knowing that we would work well together, that Tom sort of reached out to him and got him on board for the book. And I think that's the best thing that could have happened for that series. Very excited to see what else Carlos has coming down the pipe, because he's a really talented, terrific artist, and I had a ball working with him. So so I guess that's the roundabout answer to your question.
Can I piggyback one more question in there?
Sure.
So like, how do you make that leap from like what do you do when you don't have an assignment, or do you always have an assignment lined up? Like I've been trying to make the jump into professional comics forever, and I have to, I have a mortgage, you know what I mean? Like I have to make sure I'm getting X amount of dollars every week.
Sure.
So it's like, what do you do? How do you know if you're going to have work this week or next month or whatever? Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question, and it's really two different answers, because creator-owned versus licensed, it's a very different pace. It's a very different speed. Creator-owned, you really are, you're building it, you're developing each individual project. You're often shopping them around to a variety of different publishers. And so it's really sort of, you kind of, you make the rounds. And so sometimes you might have a project that might not see the light of day for a long time. And so, expecting to kind of get, the work is very feast or famine. I think when until you hit a certain level. With licensed work, it's really, you kind of try to take the best swing you can when you have it, and you try to just make sure that you deliver the goods as quickly and professionally as you can. And I've been really fortunate that I've been getting kind of consistent assignments since then. But yeah, I mean, the great thing though about the creator-owned sphere in particular is like, Kickstarters are a thing where you're sort of able to kind of take more of a lump sum But I think it's tough to really expect, monthly paychecks for comics work. I think it really is kind of feast or famine across the board. And nobody ever said that they'd get in it to get rich.
Yeah.
But I do think like I've been really fortunate that I've been able to kind of balance between my licensed work and my creator-owned work and convention sales and Kickstarters and still working freelance, a day job on top of that. That I've been able to, afford my rent here in LA.
Do you think it gets easier the more projects you get out?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, let me rephrase that. I think if they are of professional quality, if they're good,
Right.
if people respond to them, yeah, I think the more you can kind of show that like you can do the job, and I think that's really kind of a thing that is really challenging to understand, especially on the outside, is like this is a tough job. There's a lot of people who want to do this job. The bar for entry is really high, and I think structurally the industry throws up its own challenges, kind of just to weed out the people who aren't really meant for this,
Right.
who don't really have the pain tolerance threshold to make this business work. And so, I think it's I had a train of thought and I lost it. But I think it's ultimately about can you put out the work? Can you do the work? I think a lot of misconceptions is people thinking they can network their way into the business, or that there's some sort of secret handshake or there's some sort of cheat code, and there is not. The way that you get into the business of creating comics is literally sitting on your butt, finding people, making comics. That is it. There's nothing else you can do. And I do think that there's a lot of aspiring creators who don't necessarily realize, like, yeah, at the beginning it's really tough. You really you have to go out on a limb. You have to find your creative team. You have to pay your creative team. You have to find your own publisher. You have to kind of oftentimes do your own marketing and publicity, even when you are with an independent publisher. That is not for the faint of heart. And so it is difficult to get a lot of projects out when you're starting. But the thing is, at first, all you got to do is get out one project to make sure, like, is this the life you want to live? And then you get out one project, and if you get the taste for it, then put out another project, and then put out another project, and you keep doing that. And every project you put out is a calling card for more work. And then eventually, you start knocking on all the doors and nobody pays attention to you. Then suddenly somebody pays attention to you. In my case, it was getting Scouts Honor across the plate at Aftershock. I was lucky that I had known Mike Martz. I interned for him when I was at DC, but that honestly did not help me at all. I was a very excitable intern. I think that I think it made my job actually a little harder. Actually, I think being a comics journalist made my job a little harder. I think a lot of editors probably rightly thought, well, if he could do comics, he would just be doing comics instead of talking about them. I had to work twice as hard to be like, no, like, I'm not an armchair quarterback. I can do this job.
Right.
So, yes, to a very roundabout way of answering your question. It does get easier the more books you put out. You just have to build that body of work and kind of prove to editors that you're sticking around, you're not going anywhere, and you're going to put out your books whether you work with them or not.
Hell yeah! Thank you so much.
I wanted to ask you about Savage Avengers, because
Yeah.
you're talking about licensed properties and you came into that book still having Conan, for example, and like I know Marvel lost a license to Conan during the period you're writing. Did you know that going into the title that like you had to get Conan out?
I knew pretty quick. So when I was approached to write the book, there was actually a discussion about whether or not we wanted to have Conan at all. And I the way that I had framed it was I had pitched it as I pitched the series as Conan versus the Terminator. In this case, Deathlock the Destroyer being our Terminator.
Yeah, which is a great idea.
In the Hyborian Age. And so I said, not knowing what Jerry Dugan's plans were, wrapping up his run, I was like, if you want to say goodbye to Conan, this is a great place to do it. And I think I had just turned in my second issue when the word had kind of come on from high that the license wasn't going to be continued. And so I was like, okay, guess that's how we're gonna end that arc then. So it wasn't like a huge pivot. I feel like it changed arc 2 a little bit. I think for the better. Just because like we were able to kind of get Conan his ultra focused story. He was the one being hunted by Deathlock, and I think with Deathlock no longer hunting him, his story arc was complete. And so leaving him in the Hyborian Age, kind of giving him his Bond farewell from the Marvel Universe, and then handing the baton over to Jake Gallows, the Punisher of 2099, it felt like a very organic handoff. So yeah, you do have to kind of roll with the punches a little bit. That is part of the job, and that's part of why, like, I know I for a while was very frustrated as an indie creator, like, oh, I got my first book out and people liked it, why am I not getting calls from Marvel and DC? And looking back on it now, having my first assignment kind of rolling with adapting on the fly with all this stuff, I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have been ready for it. I would not have been ready for it. It was stressful dealing with it with the experience I had. So yeah, I think you just kind of roll with these things. And that's really part of playing in the big leagues, writing for Marvel, writing for DC, is that things happen and you kind of have to just, adapt on the fly. And I feel really proud of how we handled that with Savage Avengers. I think the book turned out really, really well. And I just try to approach every project to be as professional as I can be. And just hope that that makes my editors like me enough to hire me for more stuff.
Word, man. Thank you. I have a question, let's go over to Rick. Rick, you got anything you want to say, or are you all good?
No, how's it going, David? What's up, dude?
Hey, it's going good.
My name's Rick. But anyways, so first off, I had a random ass question because I had heard someone say this before. Well, this is like a random question, then I had like a real question. But did you ever, like, working with Marvel or anything, have you ever had issues about like being in contact with the artists? Like, because I remember like Frank Quietly, he made a comment about how like he was like told one thing, but then when he spoke to the person later on, they're like, what? That's not it at all. Like, he was told, oh, you can't work on that book, or maybe it was vice versa. Like, they wanted him on the book, and they told that person, oh no, he's busy, but he wasn't busy at the time. I'm wondering if
that by him that I'm aware of, at least.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I'm necessarily at the level that I'm sort of being like, I want
calling the shots
person on this book. I'm not really calling those shots.
Okay.
So it's very much, I anytime that I talk about, potential artist, I always see it as it's a suggestion, and
Right.
the editors are going to kind of have the bird's eye view that I'm not going to have.
Mhm.
And I think other than that, I mean, I'm pretty in communication with all of my artists, sometimes to the point where I'm sure they want to kill me. But it's I talk
always
to my
wondered
artists
that
pretty frequently. I guess it changes from office to office. I mean, I think every office kind of does things a little differently. But with the offices that I've worked on, like I know with Savage Avengers and Fantastic Four, I've been in a lot of communication with my artists. That Spider-Man short that came out this week, I talked with Nate Stockman quite a bit going into it. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are offices that would rather kind of coordinate the art amongst themselves, and I think they all kind of do it their own way. And but I've been pretty happy with how it's turned out so far.
That's cool. So, okay, but the real question was, you talked about interning, you kind of brushed over that, but obviously I want to know about that, and then I also want to know, like, what was the involvement behind Batman RIP and Final Crisis?
Yeah. So I guess I to dig into that a little more, I had applied to intern at DC for several years. I think the first time I applied was my sophomore year of college. I was told by Ivan Cohen, who co-wrote the Multiversity Teen Titans. There's Teen Justice. There, I don't remember the exact title on them. I feel bad for not remembering the title. The book with Jesse Quick, the new Jesse Quick with Danny Lore. But Ivan was in charge of the intern program my sophomore year, and he told me at the time that he was like, "We love you, but you're a sophomore. Like, we know we can hire you again in a year, and we have like 4 seniors who are applying, including Stephen Christie, now of Boom Studios, and Brendan McGurk, a former Newsarama journalist." So, what was I going to say? So, I applied again my junior year. Didn't get in. It was kind of like they sent me some paperwork and something kind of fell through the cracks, and I had to take another gig in LA since I hadn't heard back. So finally, my senior year, I was like, I got this, do or die. I got to do this. And I emailed Jan Jones. I think it was weekly, bi-weekly, my whole senior year, my entire senior year of college, just being like, hey, like, really want to do this? Like, how do we do this? And I think they were finally like, of course we're going to take you, like, stop emailing. So yeah, it was a great experience. I really kind of learned a lot about the nuts and bolts of how you make a comic. Some of the work I did, let's see, there was script formatting, making sure that scripts were ready for lettering. Comic scripts, it's not like a screenplay where there's, I think, a very hard and firm way of making a script. Comics, it's a little bit more loosey-goosey, but there are certain things that you can do to make them a little more friendly for your lettering team. So I did a lot of that. Balloon placement. I'd get pencils and I'd kind of figure out, like, where in the page, would we put each balloon. I was very bad at that. I was not good at that part of the job. Color notes. Reference art was a big part of the job. And what reference art is so, for example, Batman RIP, there was a sequence where Batman was thinking about what his destiny could have been if something other than a bat had flown through his window. And Grant Morrison was actually referring to, like, a really old Batman story from, like, the 60s or 70s, where it was just like, oh, maybe a scorpion, came through his window and he became Scorpion Man. So I had to find the correct issue in the DC Comics library. I'd have to scan it. I'd have to send it to the editors, and the editors would send that to Grant's artist. So I guess, like, Tony Daniel at the time.
That's
so
awesome.
I did a lot of that. And that was really cool. You kind of figure out, like, you learn pretty quickly, like the continuity, all that. I did some things. I had to write like a continuity write-up of the Checkmate series, I believe the Blue Beetle series. What else did I do? I did one of 52. I read all of 52 in one day, and, like, had to.
Oh my God.
Shit.
Yeah, my head hurt after.
Can you
that.
exist after that?
It's pretty wild. And then things like scanning artwork, filling out vouchers for freelancers, taking art that had already been scanned and bringing it to the mailroom so that they could send it back to the artist, so the artist would have their work back. Things like that. So it's funny, like I got to handle some of J.H. Williams' pages for Batwoman before that came out.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
That was wild. Those were in Mike Siglane's drawer in his office while they were slowly but surely putting that together. I know I did a lot of reference work for Kurt Busiek's Trinity. That was the weekly comic that came out after Countdown to Infinite Crisis. And then, Infinite Crisis. I did a lot of work on Submit and Resist. Those were the one-shots for that. But anyway, it's a long roundabout way of saying, yeah, it was just kind of whatever the editors needed at any particular time, I would try to volunteer and help out as best as I could. And beyond that, it was just trying to kind of just observe and learn by watching. And so I think it was really helpful for me. You know, I didn't really know all the names of, I knew writers, you know, and I often knew pencilers, but like by the time I was done with that, like I knew like who was inking every book, I knew who was lettering every book, who was editing every book. And I think that is a really important thing to learn if you want to get into, certainly into the big two, but honestly, even just the direct market in general, like learning who's editing every book, you know, or what books you like. That's a really important skill that I would say 95% of comics readers don't know. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience that really kind of made me realize, oh, people can earn a living doing this. I grew up in the Midwest. I had really no creative role models at all. And it was a really eye-opening experience that kind of set me on the path to become a creator in my own right.
That's awesome, dude. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much. All right, cool. Now I'd like to throw a question out to both of our guests, Jonathan and David here.
Sure.
I want to know a little bit about like your time management and how, like, when we were getting down really to like our day-to-day, you're already laughing because it's tough. And it's really, I feel like it's especially tough for, you know, these people, for everyone who's in a creative position. How do you lay out your days? How do you keep organized? How do you keep these things, you know, and keep yourself motivated all day? I guess we can start with David since you've been kicking.
Well, as far as motivation goes, I mean, you know, a deadline certainly motivates me, but also just like, you know, the idea of like not having a project, you know, in the works, that also motivates me. I think day to day it's tough because, you know, it often depends on what is due and what is needed at that moment. So, you know, for example, my partner had a minor surgery yesterday, so like I knew that like my scheduling was going to be a little bit off. So when I brought her home from the hospital, you know, I knew that I didn't really have enough in the tank to like really knock out a script. There's a script that like it's not due for another couple of months, but I was like hoping to get it a little ahead of it. But I knew that my editors at Marvel needed a lettering pass on an upcoming story. And that's not something they needed right away, but I was just like, I know I have enough in the tank to do this. We just got the art finished. I'm going to work on that. That's really a lot of how my day-to-day works, is it's just kind of like, all right, like what is due, what is pressing? And if there's nothing that's pressing, what's sort of the easiest thing to get done now? And just you really just chip away as best you can. Now, when there's an actual deadline coming, you know, I try to get an outline to my editors, usually within 2 weeks. And then I try to get a first issue done probably within 2 weeks of it being accepted. And that usually kind of buys me enough time to like do another script once a month, you know, in any particular project. Now, if I'm doing my job right, I'm usually kind of juggling anywhere from 2 to 4 projects a month. So that usually means that I can get a script out, you know, depending on the length of the assignment, anywhere from every 2 to 5 days, depending on how gnarly it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just you figure out what times you work best. I usually work better in like the afternoons, evenings. So I often, you know, the morning is kind of, you know, I go to the gym, you know, just to kind of focus myself, and I kind of handle any administrative work that needs to get done, like with my editors and things like that. And then, you know, usually around 2 o'clock, I'm like, all right, I'm hunkering down, and I usually kind of work from like 2 till like 8, you know, or 2 to 9 or 2 to 10. My goal for me is really more of a page count thing. It's, you know, can I get like 4 pages done today? If I get 4 pages done, I'm happy. And if I get more than 4 pages, then I'm even more happy. But, you know, you do 4 pages a day, that means you have a script done in a week. And that's usually like a good way of like pacing things out. So yeah, I think trying to keep things on a page count versus an hour count is sort of how I stay sane. And oftentimes then that means that I wind up writing 6 pages or 7 pages or 8 pages, or there have been days that I've written 20 or 30 pages in a day, and like, great, I'm well ahead of the schedule then. And that sort of lets me kind of recover and think of more stuff to work on next.
Got it. Thanks, man. Jonathan, what about you?
I mean, I'm more of an early guy. I do my stuff in the morning. My day job, I usually don't even leave the house until 10 o'clock. But because my wife is teacher, she's up at 6. So it's like from like 7 until 10, that's my golden spot, to be like completely undisturbed, do my thing. The rest of the day is just thinking. I used to juggle too much at once. Fortunately, I don't have deadlines. I just have the self-imposed ones, which let them linger and last a little too long. But if I'm writing, I usually have so much planned ahead of time that I'm just flowing. And then I spend a lot of time researching and reading and preparing in my head what I'm going to write down later. So like right now I'm reading for a project, but I'm trying to focus more on one thing at a time. So like I finished up all my comic scripts, then I finished off a pilot that I was working on. Then I like took a month to do a screenplay. And now I'm just back in that kind of like mid ground of figuring out where I'm going to focus my energies next. But I write fast because of all the pre-work that I do. So I know that I can take a month to just read, jot down notes, form an outline, so that by the time I'm going. And then I don't set a page number that I try to hit, but I try to like I'm going to write a script in 2 weeks, but that's because I know how I'm going to pace myself throughout, because I've done, 20 pages of an outline already.
Do you, either of you, find that you have to schedule in time to do like something for you, like just get outside?
This is for you.
Yeah.
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. Something other than your work, like other than writing or something. Do you find that you feel guilty when you're doing something other than your work, or do you find you like schedule this time to do like?
For me,
a walk
everything is work adjacent.
Okay, I get that.
Everything. Whatever I'm watching to like whatever I'm reading to whatever I'm enjoying always feels work related, to pull myself away from it.
For me, the thing that really kind of helps me replenish is kind of disconnecting just from the internet. I tend to try to pick one night a week that I just totally unplug.
Nice.
From like 6 o'clock until whenever I go to bed. And I that's my cheat night. I order whatever food I feel like. I watch whatever movie I feel like. I try to do that once a week, usually like on a Friday or Saturday. Just to kind of like let the engine cool a little bit before I kind of jump back into it. And I find that I wind up coming up with a bunch of ideas just doing that. That I'm not like, okay, I got to be on. I got to be like checking out, see if my editors need me for anything. Right. And so I think it's good to like, not burn yourself out. But like Jonathan was saying earlier, I'm spending all day every day thinking about stuff. Like the writing, 90% of it is when you're in the shower, or when you're walking around, or when you're driving to the gym, or you're just thinking until you finally crack it. And then I tend to write pretty detailed outlines, probably more detailed than I should, but that means that scripting becomes like a jam session where I'm like, oh, I kind of know exactly how this thing has been paneled out, has been paced out. Now I just got to figure out like, okay, well, how am I going to dialogue this? Because oftentimes I think theme kind of pops out at you in that way. And so that becomes kind of like a little bit more jazz-like, a little more improvisational. So yeah, I think I do feel guilty when I'm not doing all the work that I want to be doing, but I kind of try to balance that out with like, as long as I'm hitting my deadlines, as long as I'm turning in the work that people expect of me, as long as I stay ahead of my artists, I feel okay. And, I'm staying ahead of, at this point, like a half dozen different artists. And so when the work comes in, the work comes in. And, I'm sure I could kick myself for not working faster, but at the end of the day, if the work feels, you can go to sleep at night knowing that that you feel good about the work, then I think the pacing is, as long as you're not blowing your deadlines and screwing over your artists and your editors, I think that the pacing is kind of whatever you make of it.
Nice. Perfect. All right, it is 6:20 on New Comic Book Day Night Live. That means it's time for the musical guest segment. And by that, I mean, I'd like to know what type of music you guys listen to while creating. And it doesn't necessarily mean your favorite band, your favorite record, but I'm just interested in what type of music, not type, I mean album, band. Who are you listening to that helps you get into that creative spot the best?
It's a great question.
And I don't say favorite, and this is not an end all be all. This is just like what comes to your mind. You got
I can give an example because I don't listen to music when I work, but
I get that, yeah.
when I'm thinking, like the pilot that I've been writing is like a wrestling in the 90s, like the backstage. So I've just been listening to like music that those people would listen to, like 80s and 90s rocks cool. That you would just continuously hear. And then I feel the scenes through that, and I feel the mood through that, and I just run there. But then like, there is like for the project that I'm working with Attila on next, Mordred, like it's this bastard son of King Arthur. So I'm just thinking of like the Excalibur soundtrack, just like hardcore stuff. Sometimes it's like the Full Metal Jacket soundtrack I'll listen to just to feel like a mood and feeling. But then when I write, it's completely silent, probably dogs barking. That's
about the song on the Full Metal Jacket album that's like the hip hop F. Lee Ermey song? That song too?
I don't think that's from the. No, I'm talking about like the score.
Yeah,
like that final half hour score, just
yeah.
like that synthesizer music.
Not the hip hop song.
Or like Clockwork Orange.
Yes, Wendy Carlos.
Exactly. You listen to that stuff, and it'll put you right there.
Yeah. What about you, David?
It's tough because for me, it's just like Jonathan said, it's project to project, and it's usually during the brainstorming phase. Although I guess I also listen to music when I'm trying to like choreograph like action scenes, because I think trying to tap into like whatever energy or mood I'm trying to evoke. So oftentimes like a lot of hip hop. But like for example, I was working on something a few months back that's coming out a little later in the year that like, what was I listening to? I was listening to a lot of BTS for that one. Because like it was one of those things that like, without spoiling too much, like, the story is like set in space. And so like, having a thing that's like set in space, that like you want something that feels like kind of cool and glitzy, but like also like isn't quite like any sound that you'd be hearing, here in California. So things like that. What was I listening to? I was listening to some Alanis Morissette for a thing that I'm working on right now. Nice. Just like some kind of gloomy and gothic, but often a lot of hip hop. That's usually kind of where I go, just to kind of get like the right energy and pace. And that usually kind of helps me figure out all the action sequences that I can then kind of scaffold the rest of my story around.
Interesting. I like, it didn't even occur to me to think in that way, like not necessarily what do you as a human want to listen to, but like what does the story call for? And that's super interesting that both of you went there. Yeah.
I mean, luckily, awesome. I like all that music. Like but I think that comes down to like, I don't write projects that like don't feel like me. That like I've turned down work that doesn't feel like me, and so like I'm kind of like, well, what's the thing that I would like the most about this project? And usually it's kind of, and then I tap into whatever music that I dig that like kind of gets me in that mindset. So I mean, for a job, like for a career that means I have to do homework for like the rest of my life.
Rest of your life,
I'm-
yeah.
I'm trying really hard. I go out of my way to make it feel as little like homework as possible.
Nice. Hell yeah. All right, let's go back to the gallery here to everyone. What you got? You got something, Manny, or anyone else in the audience have a question? Please raise your hand or hit me up. I know.
I actually
Manny's got
wanted to
something
ask
cute.
both Jonathan and David a quick question too. Like,
Cool.
I feel like you both are really good at like high concept ideas, but beyond that, you're good at taking the high concept ideas and like, fleshing them out to take them beyond the elevator pitch. Like David, for you, like you said earlier, it was like Conan the Barbarian versus the Terminator. Jonathan, like a lot of your projects have the same feel. Like how, as a writer, like how when you get that like concept in your head and you're like, right, fuck, that's a great idea. Like how do you approach expanding on it so it's not entirely relying just on the concept alone? Because a lot of times that can fall flat, I feel, but neither of you have that problem.
For me, it's like mood, like I was saying. Like if I'm scripting something for like TV or film that I want to do, that's all mood and feeling. But then when it comes to comics, it's kind of a little bit more improvisational. Like with Night of the Comet, that kind of came into being as we worked on it. Similar is what's happening with the book I'm working on with Canson. Like it started off like one idea, and then it's already like 7 pages into it. We've kind of morphed it a little more. So it's like changed the concept. So I'm trying to flow with that. And then when it came to like what I'm working on with Attila for Mordred, I'd seen his work. I knew what I wanted to do. And then it's just like, what's the best way to make that the coolest comic you've ever read?
I think for me, I'm always trying to find like very different inspirations to kind of slam together. I'm always kind of, you could call it the chocolate and the peanut butter, you could call it the pineapple and the pizza, like it's how do you find two very different tastes and kind of blend them together? And I find that, otherwise that'd be saying like, orange is considered too red or too yellow, it's too reliant on red, it's too reliant on yellow. And my argument is, well, no, if the inspirations are different enough and you're able to kind of synthesize them in a logical and effective and engaging way, it kind of becomes its own thing. And I think as long as you're able to kind of find where the seams meet, and are able to kind of navigate that, and you're able to justify it, I think in your story, in your script. And I think sometimes that is through plot, sometimes that is through concept. I think oftentimes it's through emotion. If you can make your readers feel something, I think they're willing to. I think that's really why most people are paying for the price of admission, is to feel something. And so I think if you can do that, I mean, it helps also. Like I get really annoyed seeing like the guy who's doing like the dark Winnie the Pooh thing, because it just feels like just kind of nonsense to me. It just feels like shock for shock value's sake. But I feel like if you're saying, for example, it's Calvin and Hobbes meets Sin City, you better find like a damn good reason why you're doing that, And for me, it was, well, I'm going to tell a story about mental illness, and like that kind of justifies why I'm taking this like noir twist on like this beloved children's character. It's because there's an actual story to be told behind it. So, yeah, I think oftentimes, when you kind of throw two weird things together, if there's anything that kind of keeps it from being just like haha, that's a funny idea, like if it has legs to it, there's usually another reason why that makes sense, and that's usually the thing that you really kind of have to build upon to justify your story as its own independent entity.
Thank you.
Great question, Manny.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
I was muted there. Yeah, Manny's like a really good interviewer.
He's very good.
Thank you, guys. I just like talking to people, man.
So you ask all the right things. It's
Yeah.
like I get to listen to David talking. You hear his inspirations. That's I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, I was like very interested to know about writing Conan in this like Avengers theme, David, as well? Like, I know Manny already hit on it, but like, was that like was that something that like you were like, this is like a dream come true? This is like I've been waiting for, or like finding this character, who isn't Marvel based and who has like such a history far beyond capes and cows or whatever. Like, was it interesting to find ways to bring him in?
Yeah. I think it's one of those things. I mean, I've wanted to write an Avengers book for a very long time. Anything with Avengers in it, I want to do. And so, being kind of called out of the gate to be like, hey, do you want to do an Avengers book? I was like, yeah, like the simulation's breaking. Like, yeah, of course I want to do that. And I think for me, getting to tackle Conan, it was an opportunity. I saw it as, how often am I ever going to get the opportunity to write this character ever again?
Yeah.
And knowing that, like, why I wasn't raised with Conan in the way that I was raised with, say, Spider-Man or Batman or the superhero types. I know that's a character that means something to people. And so I think it was a big opportunity. It was one I was really grateful for. And being able to kind of throw a little peanut butter in the chocolate, that's something I always like doing. And so it felt like a really fun opportunity, and one I'm really glad I was able to do.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. All right, at this point, we're going to say goodbye to our friend Jonathan, and thank you so much for coming in to hang out, talk creation and everything. Super huge. Everyone who's listening now or later, either in the comments on Facebook, you have Jonathan's Kickstarter link. I'm going to drop it in the chat here in the
thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. You guys got to get this book, man. It's incredible. It really is incredible. And getting it in the oversized edition is just something you've got to do. Trust me on it. Trust me.
Such a great hype, man. He had every book to start, and
he did.
A great hype, man, Manny.
Oh man, it's well deserved, man.
It was a pleasure.
I vote with my dollar, so you know that. So.
I know. Yeah. Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure as always.
Have a good
no problem, man. We'll talk soon again, man.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. Have a great night, guys.
Yeah, man. Good luck on the Kickstarter, dude.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thanks. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Hell yeah. All right, Manny, should we kick it back over to you, Shaun? You don't have a question or nothing? I'm putting you on the spot again, dude. You're muted, though. You're muted, though, Shaun. Shaun, you're muted.
All right.
It's all good.
No, I'm good. I'm not a creator, so I'm a fan. So I just like watching you guys talk. It was interesting about music though, and like I was telling you about your 8-track player. Like some of the fun stuff, first of the month stuff I've been doing is getting into physical media again, like tapes and records and CDs. Because living in LA, I sold all that shit for rent money, 10, 20 years ago. I only sold comics for an engagement ring, but like rent money, I never sold comics for that. That's why I have so many still. But everything else is gone. So, it's been fun kind of picking up VHS. Like I got Last Starfighter on a VHS tape just because I can't get it anywhere else, right? So that's right. Shit like that. But no questions. I've been enjoying it. It makes me want to pull out the Savage Avengers and read through them again.
Go for it. Issue 10's coming out next week. Our big finale. So
I did want to ask one more question about Savage Avengers. Like, this last arc was all in the 2099 universe, which I loved. Like, was that your idea, or was that something Marvel always wanted to bring in? And like, were there any other 2099 characters you wanted to put in, like maybe Ravage or anything like that?
I do love Ravage. I do love Ravage 2099, and he was sort of my backup plan if Jake wasn't available. So when I had pitched the series, I had pitched it as 10 issues, with sort of, as that being sort of our overarching Deathlock saga, and was sort of with room for more if we wanted it, if the audience was there. But 10 was going to really kind of fill out that story nicely. And we've known since I pitched it that the first arc was going to be in the past and the second arc was going to be in the far future. And
I didn't even realize that. Yeah.
And I think as we discussed Conan's departure, I was like, well, we need a new lead. You know, we need somebody to kind of you know, galvanize the team together. And I was like, well, you know, why don't we have a host hero, you know, from the far future? And I was like, 2099 is the best place. I'd wanted to do something with Punisher. He was on my wish list for the team, but I wasn't aware until they told me. But you know, Jason Aaron was working on his Frank Castle story, with Frank kind of doing his own journey with the Hand. So you know, I felt like there was kind of a Punisher shaped void in the team. So I was like, this is the best way to fill that. You know, we go to 2099, we have kind of our host hero in Punisher 2099. But yeah, I mean, you know, there are definitely, you know, Ravage. I love Ravage. I think he's a very fun, underrated character. Is sort of like a Wolverine 2099 sort of. But I feel really good about, you know, like I feel like we tackled just about all the corners of 2099 that I wanted to cover. And we've got a few surprises waiting for readers for issue 10 that I think people will be really excited about next Wednesday. So yeah, I 2099 was pretty early on, and that was something that I pitched them, and I'm really glad that Tom Brevoort and company went for it.
Me too, man. It's been a lot of fun, you know, like I love revisiting those characters, and you got Doom 2099, which is my favorite 2099 series. I mean, like,
writing Doom was really fun. That guy's a jerk. Just this really just catty jerk. And that wound up being like really fun to write. Yeah, I'd love to write Doom again. I mean, he's definitely like, he lives for drama. Like his whole thing was like, you know, like he blew up, like, you know, a lab experiment went awry, and like his first instinct is like, I'm gonna put on a steel mask and a cape. Like that man loves his drama. You know, and so that's kind of fun to write. So yeah, would be happy to tackle Doom again. I don't know when, but I would love to get the opportunity.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, so I think we're gonna wind it down here. Let's do some quick further plugs. Do you have anything coming up? Do you have any local LA signings or anything, or cons that you're gonna be doing?
Yeah, I'll be at Emerald City in Seattle. I'll be at WonderCon in Anaheim coming up, and I'll be at C2E2 in Chicago. Nice. So that'll be through all three of those will be in March. And yeah, and you can ask your local comic shop to pre-order some of my work. The second trade for Savage Avengers is coming out in May. The Hulk annual that I did with Kaio Mahato is coming out in May. I have one other thing that's going to be announced in Marvel Solicits also coming out for May. Oh, and Extreme Venomverse #2, which will also be coming out in May. So just a lot of random stuff coming out for me that you can pre-order at your local comic shop in the coming weeks. Yeah, you can follow me online. I'm at Pepose D on Twitter and Instagram. David Pepose Comics on Facebook. You can subscribe to my newsletter, Pep Talks, at bit.ly/pepnews, or visit my website at davidpepose.com.
Nice, dude. All right, sweet. Thank you so much. Let's go around the horn for a little bit of what's going on next for you, Manny. What do you got coming up?
I'll be dropping another self-published spotlight article tomorrow with Sam, who does the Adventures of Philip K. His comic. So he's got a Kickstarter going for issue 3 now that just reached its goal. So the book will be coming out, and really affordable Kickstarter, and he's including a lot of amazing perks with it. So definitely, while you still have time, I think there's still a couple of weeks left in the campaign. So jump on it. Great book, you know, great artist, really fun to talk to, and it's probably one of the most original interviews I've done in a while. So that'll be up on monkeysfightingrobots.com tomorrow morning. And I've got a couple of other things that, you know, hopefully by the next time we have an episode, I can talk about a bit more. And that's it. Oh, I see Sam thanking me. No problem, Sam. It was my pleasure, and I meant every word of it. So look out for that interview tomorrow. I'll be sharing it. You can find me on Facebook under Manny Gomez, on Twitter under Manny G on under Manny G 1138, and on Instagram under I'd buy that for $1. So yeah,
Nice, dude.
that's
Thanks
it.
again, Manny. Hell yeah.
No
and
problem,
hey, this is our first show together. I want to say you killed it. I just really want to thank you for holding it together. And I'm
No, my
very
pleasure, dude.
excited.
I really want to make this a thing, and I think we got a good thing here. So let's come back next month and do it again with some great guests and
Yes.
and everything, man. Yeah.
Well, hey, if you want to get together again on Cosmic Lion Radio, where I do about one episode a year, we can talk about tomorrow's huge event, Star Trek Picard. Beam us right up, buddy.
That's right, man.
It's huge.
That's
I'm
right.
staying up till midnight here in LA. We can watch it at like 11:30 midnight. We'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, you're lucky. I'd have to stay up until 3 a.m. I think to be able to do it. So
This will be me the first minute. No, I think I'll be so excited to see my old friends that I'll be like,
well, my best friend he does a Star Trek podcast and he got invited out to the premiere.
yeah, you showed
So
me
he
his
hasn't said
photos.
anything. I told him if you say anything, I'm never speaking to you again. So
You showed me his photo, and then I saw him in a few other of these like Star Trek people I follow on YouTube too. So I was like, dude, I think I know that guy through Manny. All right, so
he's very involved with the Star Trek online community, so I'm sure he's
seems
out
like
there.
it. Yeah. All right, sweet. Rick, what you got coming up, bud?
First of all, Shelly, yikes is right. Second of all, I got a 6-page gig that I'm trying to finish up. I'll show you a little bit of it. That hasn't.
Oh my God, yeah.
They haven't really announced it yet, so that's just a little bit, just a little, I'm finishing that up. Then I'm gonna finish coloring the 3rd issue of my 4-issue series, The Power. I'm about halfway done with that. So like once I finish these pages, I'm jumping straight onto this book. I want to get it printed so bad. I'm just like so tired of saying it's coming soon. It's coming soon. It's coming soon. It's coming soon. I fucking promise. And then follow
excited,
Next
man.
Panel Press. There's over a dozen of us on there. We just finished up our 2nd year on there. You could go into our story highlights and you can binge every single series. It's my series Cosmic Cat. I just put out the 50-second strip, so you got a lot that you can go through, plus everyone else's strip too. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
Thanks everyone. Yeah, man, you fucking killed it. And thanks everyone for coming on. Thank you, David. It was great meeting you.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
great.
Hope we can
great
do
to
it
meet
again.
you, man. Yeah. Sean's gonna be collecting more. Kevin, do you have
Much
a
love,
book
Sean.
coming out soon? Is Kev still there? Your Kickstarter's over, but Tough Stuff 2-3 is almost out, right? How you doing with it?
I'm like halfway through it right now.
Hell yes.
I was
Can't
just
wait to see how I get killed in this one,
I was working on it in South America, man.
dude. That's very fun. It seems like you just came back from vacation and you're like didn't even stop. Because
No, I
like
brought
these
my-
guys said, it's like always. Yeah,
I brought my iPad with me so I could get pages colored.
nice. You gotta do it.
But yeah, I gotta kill you now. It's tough. I gotta kill you 3 times. I was joking to who was I saying it to? I was like, I think it was Craig CK. I was like, yeah, dude, I gotta find another way to kill Eli.
I love when people do the Kickstarter and you can pay to be in the book. Like, I just think that's the coolest like idea. It's the best thing. It like gets those people who can to like drop a little extra loot. And I love that you killed me each time. I got a giant hole blown in my head in the second one. That was sweet.
I wasn't even gonna kill you in this one, but I might have to.
You're gonna have
Do I
to.
have to kill you? Because I kind of had a funny gag I wanted to do
You
instead.
don't have to kill me. No, keep me alive.
All right, good. I'm gonna keep you alive in this one.
Sick. All right, everyone. Thank you all so much. We're gonna do this. Let's see. What is this? The 3rd? Yeah, we're gonna do the 3rd Wednesdays of every month. New comic book day, night live. Until next week. Thank you to everyone. Till next month. Thank you, everyone, so much. All right, y'all. Later on.
Good night, guys.